Hello, and welcome to Mead Gaming's hobby podcast. Once again, you are joined here with me, Jay, your host, and with me today I have, to my left here,
John.
And Al.
Thank you very much for joining me. I'm a little bit jarry on the start there because I heard someone doing a little jingle during the intro. It's like I was throwing me off my game at the start there, but it's fine. It's all part of the fun. You get to see this.
All part of the fun.
So, today we've got a new podcast. Sadly, we have to send our apologies from Joe, who can't make it this week. So, we're going to crack on as per usual, and we're actually going to be doing a part 2 to last week's video, where we were discussing rules and changes to Legions Imperialis that we would like to see as part of our game system, or that we are implementing as part of our games. But we kind of got very heavily involved in the main topic of that session.
I don't know what you're talking about. We didn't talk for like almost an hour on just one of the factions.
Yes,
yep.
Yes, and then also Tankard Talk also took an hour of time as well, which I feel is a little bit self-aggrandizing, considering it was just the two of us.
It's going to be much shorter this week.
It is going to be much shorter, yes. So, with that being said, let's move over to Tankard Talk. So we'll see you guys in just a moment. Welcome back to Tankard Talk. Yet again, the team is trying to put me off my game by making silly sounds during transitions.
Hey, you said it was a challenge, not us.
Well, yeah, I probably shouldn't have said it, but there we go. So, today's Tankard Talk is going to be quite minimalist this week. For a few reasons. One, obviously, we are absent to Joe. Two, John, sadly, was unable to commit to any painting this week.
I have been incredibly busy with work. I was honestly, I was looking for anything I could talk about, and the most I can talk about is I bought a red paint to see if it's anything like Mephiston Red. I haven't even put it on a palette to see if it looks like Mephiston Red. So maybe by next week maybe by next time I'll have something where I can actually talk about it. But
next time you're on camera.
Next time I'm on camera.
Yes.
Might got some red on something.
Hopefully so. Well, I myself haven't done a whole lot. I've been actually quite ill this week, but I have managed to get a little bit of painting done. So we'll have a look at that in just a moment. But before we progress to that, Els, you've been doing something today, haven't you? That you kind of want to talk about.
I've been brainstorming and curating the beginning of Atropos' lore, because you know how I like my lore. And I've basically, I would say I've got his backstory down now, like where he comes from and like who I want him to be and stuff. So it's been, to be honest, it's only literally happened in like the last 5 hours, but it's been like, I've been pretty productive. So yeah.
I mean, 5 hours worth of writing is pretty productive. I aspire to that level of character creation.
Yeah, so I've done that, which I'm really happy with where it's at the moment. Do you want a snidbit, Jonathan, or do you want to?
I was going to say, of like, if there were any kind of like, I guess highlights. I appreciate that we're going to be aiming with the channel to bring out the narratives. I would want to know everything, because I'd like to see it develop as a proper narrative. But I guess any bits that you're particularly proud of, or any highlights.
So Atropos is his given name by the Night Lords, but he was recruited from Nostromo before it was destroyed during the heresy, and he is mentored very closely throughout the heresy, but he basically started as a feral child hiding away in the streets of Nostromo, And that is not a trait that has left him in his adult life. And then as he became an Astartes, except he's more, I wouldn't say refined, but he's definitely a warrior now. And that's all I'm going to say, because he basically, he's my baby boy and I love him, and I'm going to break my heart with what I'm going to do to him, and I hate it, but it's the nature of being a writer, I suppose.
I don't think everybody needs to write stories that is terrible for the people that they're writing, but I feel like you need to write stories that's terrible for the people that you're writing about.
Let's be fair, this is also the grimdark of the 41st millennium.
This is the grimdark, but there are some hopeful stories. That's kind of the juxtapose on the grimdark. But
I mean,
yeah, maybe sometimes.
Not when you're Night Lords.
So yeah, deepest lore writing.
So we've got a dedicated lore writer already.
Mab to throw some lore tidbits your way to help with that there, El.
Oh my god, please.
Wow, I mean, you are going to be my chief helper in writing the first campaign, I think.
I'm so excited, honestly.
I'm excited for the drama that's going to come out in this.
Just expect someone really important to die, and yeah.
I mean, don't forget we have got to leave some room for the game to determine the story as well.
Yeah, but there's always going to be a martyr.
Okay. Well, I suppose you can write the prelude to the story.
Yeah.
Right. Well, shall we move on to having a look at the one bit of contribution to the painting desk that we can present today.
Yeah. Hey,
and today, I have essentially finished the backlog of Night Lords now, with the final edition of some lovely little Contemptor Dreadnoughts.
Ooh. They are so nice. I love them.
So we've got a set there with the lascannons and the Kerry's assault cannons. I'm going to keep the focus on the lascannons though, because the picture was better quality. And I've done them up. I've basically, because the dreadnoughts are similar to both vehicles and infantry, I decided to mix my two paint styles together. So you've got the metallic undertone from the vehicles and the transfers, but I've also done the infantry markings on them. So they've actually got the lightning bolts on the right shoulder and left leg, as well as the red pad.
I mean, I think those little Contempt models are great.
They are great.
Just fundamentally, the models themselves are great. The paint job is top notch.
It's not bad for about 3 hours work.
This is not something. This is if you were going to go and be like, I want to make a story, like you want to make a character out of one of those dreadnoughts. I definitely feel like it needs like it's a little bit of skin hanging from there. Like you're not going to get it at that scale, but just like some little bits,
I definitely think I could.
You could. I wasn't going to be like, hey Jamie, do you want to do way more work?
Hey, if at some point Ellis decides that there's a character dreadnought, I will do it.
Maybe.
Like, I don't mind doing it for like a one-off character jobby. I ain't doing it across an entire unit or army.
Just saying, could
yeah, you write you write terrible things that happen to your characters. I think I know who's going in the dreadnought.
No, maybe. Actually.
Well, okay, then I'll keep my mouth shut and get excited. So,
yeah.
So yeah, no, they look excellent.
I love them. Yeah. It was quite funny actually. I walked into the gaming room. I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, and he was just like, "Oh, have you noticed anything?" It's just like, other than you moving the entire room around, not really. And he goes, "I finished your dreadnoughts." And I looked at them, and they're literally just these little blue things on the side, and I was just like, "Oh, you're adorable!" And I was so pleased. So yeah, Jamie, once again, you have outdone yourself.
So we have the Contemptors, but you know what you're missing now?
I know what you're probably going to say.
No, the pants just escaped my mind.
Leviathan.
Leviathans. Leviathan dreadnoughts.
Yeah.
That's all right. I already know what's next on my paint desk for the Night Lords. And I've got some Tankard Terminators, some
you do.
Night Raptors, a Conrad Kurz, and a boatload of drops.
Oh yeah, we're gonna.
I'm actually genuinely excited to see how drop pods fare in the game, because I haven't seen them play.
I haven't seen them play. I think they'll be interesting because they're actually, unlike in the 40k game, where they're actually quite an expensive upgrade or cost for something that basically doesn't do anything after you drop them. In Legions, they're only 6 points a piece, so they're actually really quite cheap.
It's very reasonable.
So I actually think in Legions they're actually probably going to be quite cool.
That's my hope anyway. Fingers crossed.
So, I've also noticed a little quirk with the rules for the Dreadnought drop pod.
Oh yeah,
it doesn't say it has to have dreadnoughts in it.
It just can take dreadnoughts?
It can take dreadnoughts. So it's called a large... It counts as a large transport.
Oh.
Which means it could, in theory, take Terminators or Jump Pack Marines. It's still quite cool. Yeah. Simply for the idea that you can use the Dreadnought drop pods to drop Terminators and Assault Marines in. Because Assault Marines are a pain to transport, because you basically need a Thunderhawk. Whereas this would be an alternative.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about that, actually.
Because Jump Marines don't actually get Deep Strike like they do in 40k.
Which kind of makes if you're going to the effort of modelling, because I was having a read through of continuing my trend of the thing that I can do, because I've essentially been reading them as my bedtime reading. My fun thing with bedtime reading has been 4th edition rules. And in that, it specifically calls out that the Assault Marines have the Deep Strike because they're in Thunderhawks above. So it's in a game where you are very realistically modelling the Thunderhawks, you might as well, you can't get the Deep Strike because the Thunderhawks are there.
Yes, you would be able to see them in the game.
Yeah.
No, so yeah, it does make sense, but it does open up the opportunity now, having read that we could actually put them in the Dreadnought drop pods.
Nice. The drop pods they go.
I think it's just a case of trying to separate the idea that the Dreadnought drop pod is specifically for the Dreadnought. It's actually just a big drop pod, really.
Yeah.
It's more of a classification than a designation.
Yeah, makes sense.
Anyway, you asked a question that I had to just gloss over.
I was asking you about the Keres Assault, because
Yes.
the ones I've got have only got the what do you call it? The las cannon.
Yep, that is by common convention the optimal choice.
Yeah, just I was asking for opinions in terms of whether that was the right thing to do or whether that was a.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the rules up next to me at the moment, and the Keres Assault Cannon is pretty terrible compared to the last cannon. So because you've got to get up quite so close to use that assault cannon, one dice hitting on a 5, light AT, AP1. AP1's nice, I suppose, against infantry. Rapid fire is the sort of half-range double shots. Problem is with a Dreadnought Talon, you're probably more likely to just want to charge most infantry. And you're well within charge distance by that point.
Yes, you might as well just charge.
Yeah, it's one of the slight issues I have with the charge rules, which we'll come on to later.
Exciting.
Which could help with this issue. But I do feel like the assault cannon needs to be a little bit punchier to actually have any real value compared to the twin last cannon, because the last cannon would just allow you to hit vehicles from a distance that you charge infantry.
Yeah.
And obviously,
that's
it also has the little bolter in its wrist as well.
which is kind of your does your job with your point defense kind of role.
It's essentially better. Oh no, sorry. Rapid fire is extra shots if you roll a 6. It's the assault keyword that's the extra shots at half range. I'm getting 40k rules confused with Legions rules.
Why use the same words but don't mean the same thing? I think was it Advance has caught us out, or definitely caught me out more than once.
I've got used to it now because it's the only system I play now. But yes, it's easy to get mixed up, and I do get mixed up on occasion. Els caught me out on it a couple of games ago when I said Advance rather than March.
Yeah, quite a few times you've done that actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand why. I mean.
But yeah, so yeah, the character assault cannon would need to, I think, needs a little bit of a tweak. But then a rule change that I've got in mind may make it more valuable anyway.
Okay.
Be interested to see. I mean, we've got quite a lot of dreadnoughts between us now, so I'd be interested to run like a full brick of character assault cannons just to see how you play them.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to find out.
Yeah.
Because we've got enough to run 2 bricks now.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Nice.
But anyway, I think that's more or less everything for Tankard Talk bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thankfully,
I wish I had more.
Well, I wish we had more. I wish I had more, let alone you. I was hoping for more. I have started more today, but they're in no state for photographing.
Yeah.
But yes, we shall return. I think next week you'll probably see maybe a handful of models, but I might be showcasing some terrain, which may be a hint to my plans for the next podcast.
Very exciting.
Depending on how today goes, we may be doing
I was going to say. We're at least starting you quicker this time.
We are. Well, I mean, we haven't taken an hour to do Tankard Talk.
Yeah, true. We had a lot last time.
We did, and there's probably much to come. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Right, with that being said, let us move over to the main discussion in just a moment. Welcome back to the main discussion points. They've put me off again. Off camera.
What? Sorry, what's this they that you're throwing out here? I was well behaved. I did it once, and now it's they every time.
You start something, you get stuck with it. Simple as that.
Sorry, George.
Bullying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome to the start of discussion time. That's better.
Yep.
I'm going to keep all of this in. I'm going to be hanging you two out to dry live. Well, not live, but recorded. Okay.
We're adding flavour.
Certainly adding flavour. So, today we are going to be discussing a continuation of last week where we're going to be talking about the rules and ideas we've got for what we're going to do with our games of Legions. Which is going to include all manner of things, such as new units that we're thinking about doing. Last week we discussed army rules.
Yep.
There's also some general rules changes that we would like to implement. And there is also, I have been working on it myself and Els have been testing, a new series of missions and ways to score in the games of Legions, which we have found to be much more entertaining. Not that the main game is entertaining, but I think this just pushes it that little bit further.
Mm-hmm. Adds a bit more depth to it. I mean, from what you have discussed outside of this, it sounds like it adds a lot more kind of depth to the game.
Yeah,
it's more dynamic, certainly.
That's the idea. Hopefully, it's dynamism, bit of depth, and also flavour. I mean, it's entirely built around the idea of narrative. What annoys me most, actually, is that I designed it around the asymmetry of rules. And Games Workshop has just released the asymmetric rules set for 40k. It does feel like they're watching me.
They're listening. They know.
They've been watching me write these rules. So I'm saying it now. I wrote these rules long before Games Workshop announced those.
That's not what their lawyers will say.
No, it won't be. So, where would we like to start? What would we like to have a discussion on first? Should leave it up to you guys to decide.
Shall we? I mean, I feel like going through maybe some of the ideas that we have for like new units, maybe.
Yes.
Nice easy kind of opener.
Yeah, okay. Right, well, I'm going to be very interested to hear what you have to say on that matter, though, John, because which army are you adding units to?
Well, let's not go with new factions. So we'll keep that off to the side.
No, we don't. We're not going to new factions.
And I think there's some that... There's definitely one that I think we have discussed previously. I'm trying to make sure I don't duplicate myself in terms of things I've said. So, let's go from like Astartes, basically what we did last time. From an Astartes perspective, if there is a unit that I would like to see added in.
Well, this is not what we'd like to see added, what we are going to add.
What we're going to add in. And from a level of I enjoy the idea of maybe how it could work. I know we've spoken previously about the idea of breaches.
Mm-hmm.
But as a side to that, because we've spoken of breaches we've spoken about breaches previously
in our most viewed video so far.
Taking that idea, but more of a spin towards almost a unit akin to like the Blade Guard veterans and the Chaos Chosen. I'm trying to get the right word here. Of like an elite melee unit that's not necessarily like flying melee, but more on-ground melee that can survive and get into a fray. Yeah,
so I mean, essentially the typical concept of a knight, an Astartes knight.
Yeah.
Is what
whether that's chaos corrupted or whether that's regular, but just that kind of idea of something that can get into a melee fray. It's not really going to be shooting focused, but is more about kind of getting in, but making it there under shield.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it definitely would be a fun little addition to add. I think a sword and board unit would be quite fun.
Yeah, like I wasn't going to go for anything that was going to be wildly big. I can come with some other ideas, but I think a nice easy start of like probably something that I don't think it would have to be. It wouldn't be an invul because I feel like an invul save on them would be too powerful in Legions.
All right, I think what you find though is the invul save would be something like a 6+.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be very high.
Which I guess when you're being hit with things that can like just negate any save that they have. Actually, a 6+ might keep a model, keep a stand or two alive.
Yeah, I mean, most base points only have a 5+ save anyway. So a 6+ save would keep a 6+ invul on a unit like that. Keeps someone alive against small arms fire, but anything like a Titan will ignore it anyway.
Yeah. The other thought I had was they had maybe like a 5+ invul, but only from the front. So go into that idea of like using the kind of the facing of units a bit more.
Yeah, that would be a good compromise to have the slightly better save, but only from one angle.
So kind of similar to what we said about like with the idea of the breaches of like if you like march a file of breaches along, they're that shield wall, and kind of like I almost like the idea of like having them like interspersed. So you've got like your sword and board and your gun line, your breaches, and you like move this brick forward.
Yeah, I like that. I think we definitely should do that. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, I just like the idea of the sword and board side of it. I think it'd just be really good fun.
And easy enough for us to do, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Els, we already know a couple of Night Lords units we're already planning on adding.
Yes.
So should we just have a quick little chat about the units we are going to add? So,
okay.
So we've got the Night Raptors.
Yes.
Do you like to take the reins on that one?
Yeah, sure. If I can remember correctly about them. They are pretty sure they acted as a deterrent, like they're almost like they swoop in, cause the trouble, make them panic, and then because Night Lords have a thing about rather than taking on like a squad of men, they'd rather like terrify the weak, make them really intimidated, and then swoop in and cause bloodshed. So the Night Raptors were basically the guys that go in once they're scared, basically. I'm pretty sure it's the right way around, because I'm pretty sure the Ponticar Terminators go in, sow the panic, and then the Night Raptors swoop in and kill off everything. I think I've got that the right way around.
I think they're basically a hammer and anvil style pairing.
Nice.
The Contar are the anvil. They go in, cause panic and chaos, and then the Night Raptors come in as the hammer and finish off or rout the opponent. So there could be quite a cool little system there of a unit that 2 units that play off each other. They have a special rule where when you use them in tandem with each other, they actually bounce off.
That does sound. Yeah, that sounds like a very cool little unit kind of system to have there.
And like would be quite unique.
You could. I'm just trying to think of obviously because we need to think about these from a points perspective, but then kind of test those things out. I feel like they would be an interesting one of, do you make them a separate unit, like you buy both of them separately, or do you have to buy them as a pair, but they have a special thing where all of the ones that are of this kind, all the ones that are the Night Raptors and all the ones that are the Contacars, they don't have to maintain unit coherency. Let's maintain unit coherency within themselves, but they don't have to.
There is a way to do that through the independent rule. It already exists in the game. And I need to double check where it is in the rules, but I've seen a couple of people online get this wrong, I believe. Again, I need to double check that the rule is where I think it is. But there is a provision in the rules that a unit that has independent, that has deep strike, can stay in deep strike while the other unit stays on the board, and they deep strike down, but they don't scatter. They just appear within 6 inches of the unit that they're attached to.
I mean, that would sound like that would be the perfect solution to that little combo there.
So I've got the rule pretty clear in my mind, so I'm pretty sure I'm not making it up. But I have seen a couple of people on YouTube say that if you attach Terminators to infantry, that's pointless because then they can't deep strike. Actually, I believe in the rules they can.
Okay. That would make it actually very interesting if that's how that works.
I'm 90% sure I'm correct on this.
So, loadout wise, Night Raptors, what are they? Are they sporting those classic lightning claws, or are they?
As far as I'm aware, they do. I think, but they are the pattern upon which Chaos Raptors were designed.
Yeah. Those I assumed that they were.
I'm not sure.
They're the original.
I'm not sure that they exclusively use claws. I think they do use chainswords and bowlers and all that stuff as well.
Yeah, but I think they look cool with the claws, so we're going to go with claws.
Well, the ones that we've got for you actually have chain glaives and chain axes.
Oh.
The good old Nostromo chain glaive.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And the Contacar Terminators we've got for you also have chain glaives.
That's okay.
Which is right.
Yes.
And they do have little eyes.
They do have biters, and they are adorable.
How they're going to be thin and hard to paint.
They're not that thin, actually. The model's well designed, but painting them is going to be a task.
Little bit of red.
But it's fine. I'll manage. Just
it's both units then. So we're getting both the Contacars and the Night Raptors.
You'll get a set of each.
Yeah.
Or we'll be including a set of each.
Nice.
And they will be led by Colradicans.
They will be led by. Let's go.
So
you have no idea how happy I am.
we are going to be making some rules for some mini Primarchs.
Don't worry.
I think we've said that basically since the start.
Yeah. We're not going to wait for GW to do it. We're going to do it ourselves. I'm still playing with how we're going to do it, but ideas are forming. And I do know, and I'll move on to my additions to Astartes.
I was about to say, what would you like to add?
I've already got my additions to the Astartes printed. Now, one already exists, has been painted and has been played, which is the Stormbird. which I've created
Yes.
rules for, which seem to work quite well. My other additions are going to be Alpharis Omegon, some Linnaean Terminators, and some Alpha Legion Headhunters.
I was going to come on to that, actually. Please, continue into that, or I can say what I was going to say about that.
I mean, I don't have a lot to say at the moment because I haven't really come up with the rules concept yet. One thing that I'm toying with at the moment is how to actually create unique Terminators, because the way the scaling works in the game, you can't just add 1 CAF or 2 CAF to certain Terminators because they're slightly better at combat this than the other. Because as soon as you start adding a couple of CAF, you start to become Dreadnoughts. You start to become Knights. So I'm toying with the idea that it's actually, there might be the odd case where I think one particular brand of Terminators might be just that much extra, they'll get an extra CAF. But I think for the majority of them, I'm thinking of adding like a special rules so they interact with the game differently to normal Terminators.
That makes sense.
That's probably how I'm going to deal with unique Terminators rather than just giving them arbitrary stat buffs. Like the exception probably would be something like the Red Butchers, because their real thing is killing and fighting.
They fight. That's all they do. They fight.
So they probably would be a candidate for, Joe, I'm just going to slap an extra CAF on and say, right, cool, you guys hit like a Dreadnought. It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, that would make sense. Like they should hit like a Dreadnought.
Whereas the Linnaean Terminators, I'm like, they're not especially known for being Red Butcher level combat effective, but they are the Anvil unit of the Alpha Legion, so maybe I'll try something a bit different with them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm open to ideas, but I'm starting to form a concept.
So going on to, I had after I said my idea, I then immediately was like, I have another idea, which kind of fits in quite nicely with the idea of headhunters. Of like, I'm suggesting the generic version, and then the Alpha Legion has the unique version, which is Recon Marines. So the ones that can either choose to take the shotguns, and I love shotguns, or the sniper rifles. And then essentially making the Alpha Legion versions like the elite versions of those. So I guess is there existing a rule set around being able to snipe out characters?
No, not as far as I'm aware.
So that would be my suggestion for the headhunters, and any sniper unit would be the ability to like snipe out characters like HQs and things like that.
Yeah, there's definitely some possibility there. Yeah. It would be nice to see some snipers at Legion still, because we don't have it.
Well, it would also be, it feels like it kind of would work. Like you could have like snipers in the building and kind of like just try and like pick people out.
Well, I mean, I'm going to use this as a little segue into moving on to other units.
Yes.
Because one thing I would love to do as a special one-off like unit, literally just one base, an assassination kill team. Just a base of 4 assassins.
Would you?
Sounds awesome.
Would you do all 4 assassins on one base, or would you do 4 bases?
No. Because of the scale of legions, I think they would have to be a group. You'd have to have a kill team.
It would be an interesting kill team, though. That'd be a cool kill team.
It would just have to be one of those ridiculously good units that you can use probably once and then they die immediately.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like 100%.
Yeah. But I just think it'd be very cool just to have that little assassin unit.
Oh, there's so many things that you could do. So many things you could do with that.
Yeah. I mean, we could come up with potentially an idea of like, you could have 4 Vindicari maybe on a base, and we could do like a set of them so that there'd be 4 Vindicari, 1, 4 collects another, blah, 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 and then there'd be one that's just one of each.
Yeah. I feel like if you're sending 4 Vindicari, the job has gone out of hand. Like, sending 1 is, you need to send a message. If you send 4, you're like, maybe this is bigger than a single assassin.
Well, I mean, there is stories in 40k, and I believe Horus Heresy, where they have sent more than 1 Vindicari onto a job and so on. There's obviously several stories where multiple assassin guilds contribute.
Yes. Assassinorum, Kingmaker.
I am partway through that.
So good. Oh my god, so good.
It is very good.
Yeah,
Can't
love
wait
that
to
book.
read it.
It's my palate cleanser during the titanic trial that is the Horus Heresy.
I was like, I just strong recommendation of that book. It is a good book and a 40k story, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So so my Assassin's idea is sort of like a generalist unit that could be accessible probably to anybody other than the Xenos factions that we will be including at some point in time.
Yeah.
Is there any sort of unit in that range, shall we say, that might be interesting?
In the Assassin range or in the Xenos range?
In the sort of general Imperium. That you would actually be interested in actually making. There's lots of options we could potentially cut with. I mean, there are things like from the raft of the Imperial agents basically that we could just throw in, but
the raft Imperial.
I don't think any of us necessarily intend to make an Imperial Agents army, so we probably wouldn't make most of them. But
Imperial Agents wasn't where my mind was going, actually. Going to the kind of the other side and not Imperium, and we're moving away kind of like a bit from towards Solar Auxiliary, but not Solar Auxiliary. I'd love to see, or ideas kind of around, how to do things like cultists. If you weren't going to do like the Solar Auxiliary, because like not doing traitor, because you just take Solar Auxiliary and you make traitor guard.
Yes,
but like the idea of the cult, like you're saying about your idea of your assassinorum kind of base. Take the what's the unit called? It's not the Dark Apostle. It's the it's like the five like command squad you get of cultists.
Dark Commune.
The Dark Commune, like that as a base, as like your HQ base for a bunch of cultists, and maybe like the idea of kind of like almost kind of Gene Stealer-esque, like cultist vehicles. I'm thinking
Chaos Cult.
Chaos Cult. Have you both seen the Secret Level?
Yes, we have.
Episode.
Yeah.
The bit where they're going through and there's all the cultists on the vehicles. There's basically just Gene Stealer vehicles, but full of cultists rather than Gene Stealer. They're both cultists, but you know what I mean? Like,
Chaos cults. Yeah.
Chaos cults as opposed to Gene Stealer cults.
Essentially, what we want is some rules for essentially a militia or a cult kind of set.
Some that kind of vibe.
Yeah. Because that would also work quite well for, say, a narrative game for, say, if I was doing like House Drakara or something, maybe I've just got the general populace to jump in and help out with the defense, maybe, and stuff like that.
Roll it out in their little pickup trucks.
Yeah. So I think that would be quite cool set of units we could actually potentially look at making, because that would be quite fun, actually. It wouldn't require much, because you'd only need a command stand, an infantry stand, and maybe a couple of vehicles.
Yeah.
That'd be quite cool. I'd be up for that.
And that'd be like just as an alternative to not a direct alternative, you know what I mean? Like as an alternative for like your cheap infantry.
It's another option rather than an alternative. Yeah. Like the cheapest infantry unit you could possibly get.
They're just going to, like, a stiff breeze in this game is going to wipe them out. But there's a lot of them.
I would probably say this is the one unit where you say their save is 7+. they just don't get a save.
They just don't get a save. But there is enough of them that you can't shoot all of them.
Yeah. I think that would be quite cool. And you could do some hilarious things with like just this massive horde of cultists.
Yeah, they're just like just running across the field.
Yeah, tidal wave. Yeah, you probably have to implement a rule with them, because obviously we spoke about having army rules.
No.
I would probably have them as like a super dirt cheap unit that their only special rule is that they don't get rules. They don't acquire the rule for your army. They are just literally there to fill out a list with the dirt cheapest thing you can find.
Like, oh, you've got 5 points left over. You can chuck a couple of cultists in there.
Yeah.
It'll fit. It'll be fine.
Yeah. But they don't benefit from the special Astartes doctrines or anything to do with Titans or anything like that.
No, they're just literally like I feel like if you run them with Titans and they're too close when you go to move a Titan, you roll to potentially step on them as you go through.
Yes, because they don't care.
They're just like, oh, we'll just go over them.
Yeah, that could be quite funny.
Well, they did that rule actually. I joke about it. They have that rule in 10th edition.
Did they?
For Chaos Knights, there's a Chaos Knights detachment that can now take cultists with them.
Yes,
but can take out the cultists to give them a buff.
Okay.
It's the Christmas one that came out. It's like they basically they like just kill off the cultists to give themselves a buff.
That's cool. Yeah, I did look at those. I was quite interested in because obviously I'm looking at potentially doing a Night Owl with 40k. And I was very disappointed that the alternative, the Loyalist version, wasn't Ashta Militari based, because I wanted to do a representation of my Legions army in 40k. So I would do my solo Auxilia and my knights.
I know why they did it, because it feels the most at that kind of, the armies that fit the nicest together is Mech and Knights.
Yeah. But hey ho. It is what it is.
Hey-ho.
Not the discussion for today.
Not the discussion for today.
Those might be a little bit difficult for you to comment on random units that aren't in factions, so you've probably not come across too many of them at the moment.
Not really, no. It's quite interesting just to listen to what you guys have got, to be honest. It gives me a little bit more insight.
Good.
So
I mean, we've touched on mortals then. Shall we take a look at the mortal armies?
Pardon me, the Solar Auxilia, or Imperial Guard, I guess as our scale would be.
Yeah. So obviously currently I'm the only one who possesses a mortal army. I also know you potentially might look at it in the future.
Maybe. I'm still not at the moment. I'm still
not
hooked on doing just.
I think you might enjoy the cultist.
Blue. Yeah, I mean,
the cultist idea would probably work well for you, because then you haven't got to worry about all the extra rules for Solar Auxilia.
Yeah, we'll see. I think I'll get confident with what I've got at the moment, and then I'll branch out if I need to.
I mean, there's going to be a theme to the things I'm definitely going to be adding.
Yeah.
Go on.
Psychers. I've got to add them in.
I had just assumed that whatever faction you were going to write rules for Psychers for. Like, I wasn't even going to bring up Psychers on the assumption that every faction is going to get Psychers at some point. I'll just wait for you to write the rules for them.
Yeah, I definitely will do. I think the Auxilia will be my first foray into adding Psychers in for my own armies.
Oh, interesting. So sanctioned Psychers amongst that particular group.
Yeah. So I'll be looking at either sanctioned Psychers or Primaris Psyker, I think is the other one.
Oh yeah. Is that not just a sanctioned Psyker?
No, sanctioned Psychers are like a group. Whereas Primaris Psyker is a single individual.
Huh.
So I shall probably have rules for both. So yes, I shall look into maybe adding a psychic element to my Auxilia. Because the only other thing I'd be interested in is an alternative Velatari option, because I've discovered recently that the Velatari aren't just the axe wielders.
Oh.
No, the Velatari can... The flamer units you get, they're technically Velatari as well. But in Legions, they're not. And you can't actually take the flamers as separate units. They can only be attached to the las rifles. But there's also... Volkite armed Velatari.
That I do know, because I've looked at that kit. It's a very nice kit. Sorry, like the 28mm scale.
Yeah. So that's something I believe GW will add, so I'm not going to include that necessarily here, and I'm probably not going to go to the effort of making them, whereas I'm less confident that they're going to include Psychers anytime soon.
Yeah.
So I would definitely make some Psychers.
What would I add? What I looked at? Something for the fast attack slot. Whether that came in the form of the classic Atlan Deathcore Rough Rider vibe, all the same idea, but on bike. Orc and Ashtamatarum, that kind of, has not been one that has been particularly in the brain, but like bike units, like small kind of buggy units, things like that. Basically something to like fill that fast attack role.
Yeah, there might be something that could potentially fill that role, although I'm not sure that they quite fit.
Because I know they've got like the Sentinel Walkers, and they've got like those
They've got these.
These
are like even smaller walkers.
Oh, okay. I assumed they were just like unarmored Sentinels. I didn't realize they were the proper.
Yeah, no, they're literally little dudes. So, but I mean, that's a more heavily armored one, but
they kind of look like the chicken walkers from Star Wars, except bulkier on the top, especially in the picture of the box.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Look at the normal Sentinels. But yeah, these little guys. This could be something that could be a cavalry-esque unit.
Yeah. I just figured
that already exists as part of the Solar Auxilia. But because that might be something that is added eventually, which I'd assume will be, the idea of actually a cavalry unit, because we probably won't see that from GW, might be quite fun. And to be honest, now you mentioned that, I quite like the idea of just making a cavalry unit just for the hell of it.
I feel like a cavalry unit would be quite the vibe for it. The other one that I thought could be just in that kind of similar vein of like their faster attack kind of thing would be, and now I'm saying it, I'm just going to very quickly double check that I can't see it on this site. No, okay, I can say this one, and it's not a unit that already exists, like the one I just said. Basically, like the idea of like the Scions, like the Tempestus kind of Scions, that kind of vibe.
I mean, I think that is the Baladari.
But like the jump pack, like the drop pack kind of version.
Oh, right. Okay.
The Tempestus Aquilians is what they are now,
right.
Or the Elysium Drop Troopers, whichever one you want to go with. But
the Elysium Drop Troopers theoretically were an entire regiment rather than just a special unit.
But something of that kind of like ilk of like that jump pack kind of drop troop kind of vibe.
That would be very cool. I mean, I've always said, especially with like the Space Marines as well, I don't understand why they don't have a jump unit with a gun. Why do they not have a jump unit with a gun?
Because it would be so good. There is a mod that somebody has done for Space Marine 2, which lets you take every weapon on every class.
Right.
And if you take a jump pack and a heavy plasma gun, unsurprisingly, it's really good.
Yeah, but
I'm not talking about hover at the back with a really big gun, and then
I'm not talking about that massive thing. I'm just talking about just a bolter. Like Titus does it in the campaign.
I'm not disputing the fact that it should exist, but yeah,
and the Aquilons exist. They are gunners with a jump pack.
Yes.
They should exist.
They're grab shoots, aren't they? It's sort of them dropping down. It's not them hovering up in the air.
I thought they could actually jump in the air.
I thought they just because I think they're just grab shoots.
I thought they were jump packs. I think they do have the jump pack rule.
They might do.
I think they do.
I think of them Kill Team because they don't have the fly rule in Kill Team.
Possibly. I may be wrong. I haven't seen them on the tabletop to know.
Neither have I.
But regardless, the point still stands. Jump troops for Auxilia.
Fast elite for your guard. Yeah.
Got any ideas else for a human infantry unit or even a vehicle or anything like that?
To be honest, I don't really know enough to make an informed decision. I've only seen like the stuff that you run with your Solar Auxilia, so I'm really not sure, to be honest.
Okay, that's fine.
Sorry.
No worries. I mean, I'll bring across the idea. I'll bring across the idea for you of a sniper team again. So Rogs could use a sniper team.
I do like the sound of snipers. Yeah, that did
quite a few.
pique my interest a little bit.
Quite a few famous snipers. I mean, we are missing the other abhumans common to the Imperial Guard.
Feeling it.
Cat people? Yeah, let's have some freaking cat people in this meow meow house. Are you gonna come out?
I'm gonna cut you both out.
You can do this whole YouTube thing on your own, you know.
I'm referring to, of course, 40k's hobbits.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
I
Spoil sport. Spoil sport.
I saw the opportunity. I had to take it. Oh.
Anyway, yes. Some more abhuman representation would be quite cool. I'd like to see some rattlings, and I'd actually like to see beastmen, to be fair.
Yeah.
Because they're not unique to Chaos in 40k. They do fight it as part of the Imperium.
Yeah, and there are some very cool things that have kind of like been done for them.
I'd like to see some able beastmen. That'd be quite fun.
Yeah. They'd be cool if they were like both that and Chaos.
Yeah, it's a good one that you could apply to both.
It's definitely one that we will be building because I do not see that coming into your Horus Heresy anytime soon.
No, I can't see that happening. So either one of us has got to somehow make it or find someone to do it for us.
You just need to find like Beastmen as a fantasy army is common enough that like because War Master remember is the other side of the coin.
War Master does have STOs out there now. Also, War Master is definitely something I'd be interested in at some point.
It's basically Total War. Is what you.
Yes. I'm just saying. Someone's got Cathay files. I'm down.
Those Cathay models.
Oh yes. But anyway, we won't. We won't fall in love with Cathay on another episode of Me Hall because we've already done that. I think twice now.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, so knights. Yeah, well, I mean, you know immediately where I'm going with knights.
It's Psycho Knights. So come up with something else.
Psycho Knights. Yes.
Yeah, something else now. We need something else other than Psycho Knights.
Easy for me actually, because there is one thing that I sadly don't think they're going to do, but I really want the Dominus Knights.
Yeah, it's like they're not in the Horus Heresy,
but they used to be
rule set wise. But they're just not there.
But they used to be. They used to be part of the rules, and as far as I know, lore wise, they existed at the same time as Gorstoris Knights. They weren't new.
I'm not disputing it. It's weird.
It is very weird. So yeah, I'm trying to find some printable Dominus Knights at the moment for Epic because I just want some Dominus Knights.
Yeah, absolutely. Else? Any comments?
I feel really useless to be honest because I don't know. Like I feel like this is an area I'm really like misinformed in, to be honest.
It's okay. We'll be moving on to another topic at some point soon anyway.
I want cat people though. I'm joking.
So I think like a lot of the patterns of knights are kind of already catered for because they came over from obviously Adeptus Titanicus. So they're kind of like standard patterns of knights I think they've got. I have a weird idea.
Okay.
Which would be a knight transport.
I'm listening.
Okay.
So whether it would be like an aerial transport that could drop off knights, or as like like the mastodon.
Yes.
But imagine that, but that could like either like I don't know whether you do it to like the scale it could transport Questoris pattern, but maybe like the idea it could transport Armiger pattern. So like basically the idea of like how do they get these knights there?
I'm just going to find something. that I'm going to put on screen in a minute. But you carry on with your thought.
So like the idea I would have would be like, if it was a ground-based one, I would go, because like the armatures aren't as well defended.
Yeah.
So you'd go alongside, like, you have the kind of Questoris like marching along, and then when he gets there, like the doors open and just the armor just run out in front. Or the idea of an aerial one would be like it would fly it. I knew that was the picture. As soon as I started describing, I knew that you were like, I need to find that vehicle.
What is that? What am I looking at right now?
That's Star Wars Episode 1.
The best
the droid
scene
transport
in that film.
Oh my god!
But they come out and they like.
So we want this, but massive.
I mean, if we can fit that, if we can do a vehicle that has that many armatures, yes.
To be honest, I love it. I want to do it.
Oh my god!
The other one, if we're going down the Star Wars route, you know the bit in Attack of the Clones where they're dropping off the walkers. It's that, but for the knights.
Oh, for the basically the flyers.
The flyers coming in and dropping off. So, like, how do you get your knights into the midboard? I can walk them up, or I can fly them down and drop them off and then take off.
But you know, I like flyers.
I know you like flyers.
And to be fair, you have got to think they must get these knights down to these planets somehow.
That's what I mean. Like, it could be like some like fun kind of Mechanicus vibe vehicle that like flies on down, drops them off, takes off.
So essentially, what we're saying is you pay for basically a nice drop pod, except it's not a pod; it's just a flyer that drops things off.
It's a flyer. I think a drop pod for a knight would be absolutely beautiful because it's basically Titanfall then, but
and would probably be the size of a small skyscraper.
Yeah, but you drop a building on somebody and suddenly, you drop a building on somebody that contains a giant walking robot, and you tell me that's not the coolest thing you've heard of.
I mean, it sounds anime, but also perfectly 40k at the same time.
Yeah, but a flyer, flyer that can transport your knight down, drop them off, take off. Like, it might have like some point defense weapons. I wouldn't make it like, it shouldn't be Thunder Hawk kind of level of it can fight.
No, I would say it'd be more like the Stormbird that I've made, which has like some incidental weaponry, but it's just a big transport.
Like, it can like clear a space, but that's about it.
Yeah. It can clear out some infantry and a few small vehicles, but it's not challenging anything bigger.
And there's a what I would say is like a realistic way to kind of design it, and then there's the go for the Mechanicus leaning into this kind of Da Vinci vibe level to it. Both of those would work.
Yeah. Okay. I'm in.
Yeah. Because I think knights are well served kind of already for most things outside of like psychic knights, but having an option of how do you get your knights in would be kind of like more the kind of the vibe that I would be intrigued to see.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like that. That's definitely a cool option. I've got some ideas for new units now. Well, in terms of Titans, I don't feel like there's a whole lot I'd want to necessarily add that's not just another Titan. Obviously, the Imperator, but that may eventually happen.
It may eventually happen.
It
is the only scale
where it will.
That would make sense.
Yeah. So if we're ever going to see it, it will be an 8 mil. But we already have plans to introduce that anyway.
Yeah.
Set plans have modified from converting one to now 3D printing a very nice one that we found.
It's a very nice one.
Which is fine, because now the model I had bought for the said purpose now becomes the start of my knight army.
Exactly. See, that's a win-win.
So it's all good.
Is there any Titans that I feel like I would like to see, though? Again, I feel like Titans are quite well served.
Yeah, I don't know there's a lot you can do with Titans. Just because of what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to hang up on Titans unless we've got an idea.
Is there any Titan pattern that is smaller than a Warhound?
No, because as soon as you get smaller than a Warhound, you bump into the Astartes Knight, which is already very close to a Warhound size.
That's fair. I was like, just wondering if you could go like almost kind of the opposite end of going smaller.
No.
I mean, the obvious one that I would say is having like true representations, like the Chaos variants of them, like make them chaotic.
Yeah. Which, again, is something that we're not necessarily going to see, which is a shame.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we could have
because I was reminded of the classic Forge World Chaos War Dog. And I'm like, I forgot how. I was reminded of it, and then looked it up again. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember seeing that pre me being into 40k, but I remember seeing that model in like a Games Workshop shop, walking by and be like, that looks amazing.
I think there's a really famous example of somebody who converted a Nurglite Reaver, which looks stunning.
What does that look like? I've never seen one of those before.
What, a Reaver?
Well, not a Nurgle-like one. I think that's what you said.
Yeah, it's one that's just rotten and got green stuff all over it.
Right.
Yeah, there's a few of them in terms of like the kind of like the design. Reaver is the one that is like a bit bigger than the Warhound. It's like Warhound and then Reaver.
Yeah.
But there are some very kind of like cool designs in it. Yeah. Are all the Titan weapons present? I feel like Titans and Knights are probably pretty well served because they had an entire game before this.
Yeah, I
get everything out.
I don't recall any Titan weapons being missing really. Not off the top of my head anyway. But then I wasn't much of a didn't know a lot about Titans before I got into Legions because they were just beyond the realm of my access.
I don't think I'd even seen one before we started to delve into Legions, to be completely honest.
Here, I do have a Titan idea.
Okay.
Just because of the size of the Titans, you're dealing with a kind of like completely different scale, which means that at this scale, you could do variants. Now, I know, like, obviously the variants already exist, but in terms of variants of, like, the patterns, because you have the Mars patterns and the Lucius pattern Titans. Yeah. And the Lucius pattern Titans were like the ones that existed in the old Epic, where they had to work within the confines of what they could build, so they were much more boxy. And kind of the idea of, like, if you could have both of them almost like side by side, like the core kit, and then you put different armor on them to make them either Mars pattern or Lucius pattern. And it, like, if they go Mars pattern, they're kind of like the stats they are. But if you go Lucius pattern, they're maybe like a bit slower, but a bit more heavily armored or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, this kind of idea of like, because you're dealing with, you've kind of got everything as like a core unit element, but like then start to add variants around those units.
Yeah. That could be interesting.
Where it's like, I'm going to have like a Lucius Warhound, and it could be that actually that almost becomes almost like a faction rule kind of element as well. Going back to that of like, which Forge World does it come from? You can only pick one Forge World, and then you can't like get the benefits of the other one if you don't pick that Forge World to come from.
Yeah.
As like an alternative approach to it.
Mm.
Cool.
And then if you do the rules for that, you have to magnetize all of the armor panels onto your Titans.
I've only magnetized every weapon on all my Titans, and all of them at the waist. But that's as far as I'm going.
That's as far as you're going so far.
No, that's as far as I'm going. I draw the line here.
Okay.
I'm not magnetizing armor plates.
It's just a suggestion.
Yeah, it's not happening.
Okay.
The closest I'll ever go to that is if I ever pick up a Baneblade again, and I will magnetize it for all variants.
Just to be clear, at 40k scale, not Legion scale.
Oh, yes. My Legion scale Beyblades they're glued.
I was like, don't do this, Jerry. Don't do this.
I've got 4 Baneblades. I've got another 2 to build, which I'm going to build a Storm Blades, I think, or Storm Hammers, whichever the other one is. Which means I will need to get another box of those to make 4. Because I want I want them in 4s.
It's a hard life, you know.
But the annoying thing is, the Baneblade variant that I've always been in love with since day one of being into Warhammer is the Shadow Sword. The Titan Killer.
Mm-hmm.
There's a kit for it. And I haven't bought it yet.
What?
Why?
A Legion scale?
There's a Legion scale Shadow Sword.
Wow.
Which totally passed me by. But it's there.
I guess you need to get yourself some more, not Baneblades, but using the Baneblade chassis.
Yeah. So, yep, I already know that that's a kit I'll be picking up at some point very soon.
Yeah.
Once I've got through the massive backlog I currently got.
Through the absolute piles of backlog that you've got.
Yeah, I worked out the other day how many Sun Auxilia infantry models I currently have. It's over 200.
That's a lot of models.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of models.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that many stands, but it's a lot of models. That doesn't include all the tanks. Or Ogren.
Yep.
That's just the humans. Actually, that's not even all of them. No, I think about it. Yeah, it's a lot.
I know none of us currently play or have got any of the AdMech.
Not currently. I don't plan on
The
doing it either.
Mechanicus, as they were. But in terms of what we might want to see, like my immediate thought would be just like, in much the same way that AdMech in 40k should get the stuff from Horus Heresy, give the stuff from current 40k to them.
So, like the Raptor planes.
Raptor planes? No, the one I want, Onager good Dune crawlers. I want tiny Onager Dune crawlers. That's what I really want to see.
I mean, that is cool. But I want the bird planes.
Bird planes. After finding out that the bird planes don't flap, I was very disappointed. They look like they should flap.
Yeah.
Elle, if
a bit like the ones from June.
Yes, that is what they should move like, and that's not how they move.
Yeah.
I feel like, Elle, have you seen the ones we're talking about here?
I
think so.
I don't know. I'll get a picture for you.
The Archaeopter Transvector, or the Stratoraptor, depending on what kind of loadout you have.
Wow.
Because it's like a transport or a gunship, I think.
There we go.
Yes, I have seen those.
It should flap.
It's so cool. It's so cool. I know some people hate it. I love it. In fact, that model alone made me think about doing AdMech.
Don't do AdMech, Jamie.
I'm not going to.
You don't like painting small details, and it is small details the army.
Yeah, I know.
I gave up
that
painting
model
AdMech.
made me tempted.
Yeah.
Although that price does put me off.
Yeah.
Wow.
I believe that last I saw somebody doing maths on them, they are now coming in as the more than £1 per point army.
Yeah, I knew they were bad, but...
Which, 2,000 point army?
£2,000. Well, more than
£2,000.
Yeah, that's horrific.
Because they keep like putting the points down to try and make them better, but that means that you need more models.
The army that probably shouldn't be a horde is so hordy, it's unbelievable.
They really shouldn't be hordy. They should be. I would always imagine that. I would always imagine that AdMech should be about the kind of same level of like elite as like Sisters of Battle.
Yeah,
like about that kind of number, like less than Space Marines, more than less than Astra Militarum, more than Space Marines. In terms of the number of models. Like they should have more models than Space Marines, but less models than Astra Militarum.
I'll just have a look. So the new Techno Thralls that they've released for Horus Heresy, it's just under 50 quid. You get 50 of them. No, sorry, not 50. You get 20 of them. It's nearly 50. Just under 50 quid. You get 20 of them.
Yep.
I feel like you would have to just buy that kit and call them the infantry for AdMech.
Yeah, they are your Skitarii. Like,
just a very different take on Skitarii.
I mean, it's a good take on Skadar. I'm amazed that nobody bought that kit as all of their servitors. Like,
Yeah.
I'm amazed that kit's still for sale because everybody wants servitors, but nobody has servitors, and it's like they're
There's
right there.
there's a whole kit. There's an entire set right there.
Yeah, there's more servitors than you'd ever need. But I imagine that new kill team is going to sell out immediately because of this.
Yeah, and probably paying a lot more for less when that kit still exists.
Yeah, just buy them. Just buy them.
Anyone who is watching who wants servitors, probably get this kit rather than, and I'm saying this kit before jumping on the kill team. That's probably only going to have like half as many servitors and probably the same price.
Like, it's going to have more options, but like the fun is kit bashing.
Yes, and I'd imagine there's quite a lot of spare bits in this kit.
Yeah, I mean they do all have las guns on the side, but
yeah. Again, also this is why I think they'd be a perfect cop out for your standard AdMech infantry.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are ways of making these things cheaper. You just got to be a bit more clever about it.
Wait, the most controversial take. We think AdMech should have Horus Heresy unit. Nobody said that before.
Yeah. Slightly different version of that statement, but yes.
Yeah. Anything else in terms of additions? I don't think we've already spoken about before.
I don't think so. I think we're pretty clear on the new units that we want to add.
Yeah.
Okay. So, next options then, sort of look. So, rules amendments and missions, or new rule additions. When I say amendments, I kind of want to touch on that because we've already mentioned it briefly earlier. Because there's one rule in the game that I kind of liked when I started, but having played it quite a bit now, I feel like it should be different. And that's the charge rule.
Okay.
Because there's no rolling involved in charging in Legions. You literally just double your movement and run into a target. Which sounds okay. Obviously, I play with a lot of knights. Knights have a move on that. My Astartes pattern knights have a 9-inch move.
So an 18-inch charge.
I have a guaranteed 18-inch charge. Which on most boards means I'm charging whatever I want on turn 1 or 2. Especially if I'm in a Vanguard Lance where I get to move before turn 1 as well.
Yeah.
I'm literally charging the other side of the board, turn 1. Guaranteed. And there's also a couple of patterns of Astartes Knights which are equipped with blades and weapons, ranged weapons. Generally speaking, it's better to charge than it's to shoot. And because it's a guaranteed charge, which is also a longer range than your guns, it tends to be better just to charge. So I'm toying with the idea of implementing a bit more RNG into the charge mechanic. But I want to do what I'm thinking is a blend, which is also what they do in fantasy, which is you move your normal move plus a d6.
Oh, okay. So it's basically then that's charge. That's like okay with 1d6, but that's basically a charge that is 40k.
Yeah, but obviously you don't get your move characteristic in 40k.
Well, you get because you have your movement. Brian, you don't advance.
Yeah, but yeah. Yes.
Yes, but I have an interesting spanner to throw into those particular works of the idea of the random roll. It's not always a d6. We have access to more than d6. Your charge dice is determined by what it is. So your knights, they can go fast. They might roll a d12.
I don't want to add extra dice into the game.
More dice are more fun.
It's just adding more dice into a d6 system.
Well, because it's just like it's just the distance.
It is, but that also requires me to consciously bring more dice to the table when I'm only bringing d6s. Also, I like my themed dice, that will suddenly make me go, oh, I don't have a themed Alpha Legion D10.
That sounds like you need a themed Alpha Legion D10 then.
No, I appreciate the concept, but I don't want to add an extra level of requirement to a game.
Okay.
Because I'm now having to bring more dice.
You could take that kind of... Okay, so taking that idea then, maybe it is a number of dice.
It could be a number of dice. I mean, I would... My struggle is with some... Because the knights are faster, because they're getting their move anyway, they're already moving faster. So they're already getting 9 inches plus 6, whereas an infantry is getting 5 inches plus 6.
Or plus 1.
Who?
Well, because you're rolling a d6.
Yeah, but I'm just...
Runs on both ends of it.
Whatever the number is irrelevant. My point is they're moving a set number plus a random number. Yeah. So I don't feel the need to give, say, a Astartes Knight a 2d6 plus their normal charge when they're already moving 4 inches faster than the infantry anyway.
Okay.
Get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
But potentially there's something we could do. Maybe that could be a rule that we could add in for certain units. A universal unit. Obviously, we've got Furious Charge, which is the extra calf on the charge. There could be something else, like Expedious Charge or something.
Yeah, something that makes them go even quicker.
Which could be something quite cool to add to something like Bikers.
Yeah, like something where they might need to kind of get in a little bit quicker.
Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely worth experimenting with that.
Let's try it out.
I think this is the me reading old rules and looking at things and being like, actually, where games were more about like movement of things as opposed to more dice rolling. Because you'll be familiar. 4th edition charge was you charge 6.
Yeah.
There was no roll. And there was something, especially coming from like a bunch of different games, of just like, there is a number, that is the distance, that's quite nice.
Yeah, it does have its play. For me, with the problem with the Legions one is it's the double move on some units. It just makes it...
Yeah.
It basically means that the range weapon is irrelevant.
I mean, it could just be a flat number that means that they don't double move.
It could be. You could just change it to just their move.
Yeah, or like their move plus 3.
At that point, we might as well say plus d6 so make it roll.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would like to try the roll because I think the roll adds story.
Yeah.
And it also makes it more of a choice.
Yeah, go on.
Because I that's the one thing I do like about charging at 40k is that I'm making a decision: do I risk it? And in Legions, it's more of a risk because obviously it's your entire action. It's your order.
You have to be very careful as well.
But still having the safety net of I still get my move. So there are occasions where I will know that I can make the charge.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting one. So you do your measurement to say this is how far that charge is going to be, and you declare it as a charge. And your judgment was based off of the fact that they needed to move their movement plus an extra 5. You roll a 4 or a 3. Do you still have to move that unit that distance, or do they not move?
So I would still do it in the way they used to do it in Fantasy. I don't know if they still do it, which is where you just move your normal move, but you still move towards the target of the charge.
Okay. I was going to say, either that or you just get to move that distance and then live with the consequences.
Essentially, yes.
That is always my favorite version of it, of just like, you are still going over there, you just didn't make it.
Yeah. And that's the idea I'd go with, is that, but in the Fantasy, you wouldn't get the bonus you got from the roll, you just move your normal move distance.
also works.
So that's what I would probably adopt. So say my Cerastus has got a 12-inch charge and I roll a 1 on my charge. I still move the 9 inches. I lose the extra 1. Yeah, that I'm also now massively out of position potentially.
It was like, I have made a terrible decision here.
Yeah.
Or they just didn't make it yet. But yeah, that's cool.
Whereas my option in that scenario would be actually what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move up and fire my little pistol shot that comes out of my shield.
Yeah, I guess it then becomes much more of a like, do I get to a position where I can guarantee it and I don't need that roll anymore?
Yeah. So it would also encourage the hybrid knights to actually advance, shoot, get into a situation, then they charge, rather than risking it every time. Whereas the Lancer is one that you would probably risk more often because it's mostly a melee machine.
Yeah, you're just going to keep charging until it hits.
But it would make the other two a little bit more interesting, because I've certainly noticed when else has been playing with those ones, because I don't own those ones. Whenever I've thought about how I would play them, I'm always like, why wouldn't I just charge? And that annoys me. Why would I've got a gun? I should feel incentivized to use it.
I feel like I don't utilize, like when we play games, I feel like I don't utilize the ability to charge enough, because like for me it's like it's really scary, because most of the time when I go in a combat phase I lose. So there's always like that little like worry in the back of my head, like, well, I know if I charge, I'm probably not going to come out of it the way I want to come out of it. So what's the point? And then Jamie's like, well, why didn't you just charge them? That would have been like your best move. And I'm just like, well, you would say that. What are you trying to, like, do you know what I mean? Does that make any sense?
No
But anyways, so the charge roll is something I'm toying with modifying.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can see it as like an alternative version of like the universal rule. And yeah, the randomness does add a degree of narrative to it as well.
Yeah, I also think there'll be some fantastic moments. Terrifying if you're the one rolling it, but there'll be some fantastic moments when your knight is charging headlong and just suddenly stops right before that Titan's main cannon.
Just trips, just like
And oh no, oh dear.
Oh no, I've made a terrible mistake.
Mistakes were made,
and
you don't get those moments currently.
No, I guess it's a bit more like you know what's going to happen.
Yeah. So yeah, that's something I would definitely look at changing. There's lots more that I have implemented changes and a few more ideas for new stuff. But do you have any ideas, or do you want me to run through some more concepts I've got running?
I have like a bit of an idea in terms of adding something in, but I don't know how it would work. But it would be add like something to make flamers work a bit better, because I like the idea of flamers.
When you say
but I know that
don't work, because the Auxilia flamers on my infantry are brilliant.
Okay, it was just like how to kind of make, I guess, the flamers like feel a bit more beneficial.
Yeah, I would need to know the context though, because it depends how you use them, because they're phenomenally good, the infantry flamers, because they ignore cover.
Okay.
And ignores cover is massive.
Is that their... Okay. Well, in which case then I will move away from that one. I feel like the lack of me having played with them. Maybe it's coming from I was working on the assumption of your feelings on flamers in big.
Yeah, in 40k, I hate them. In Legions, they're phenomenal, because ignores cover is such a massive thing when trying to dig infantry out of terrain.
Cool. In which case, then they're good, and I need to use flamers. That's.
Yeah, you won't see me running solo Auxilia without as many flamers as I can throw in.
Okay. In which case, then I will go back to my previous one of Astartes. I'd like some flamethrowers. But anyway. I think you two are probably in a better position to actually, in this case, discuss about rules elements.
Okay. Els, do you want to mention any rule changes that we've played with?
That we've played with in general, or specifically with a specific thing?
Just whatever you remember, darling.
Pretty sure there's one with morale.
Yes,
that we adjusted.
Yeah, so we've modified morale a little bit, so that so in the standard game of Legions, when you fail morale check, you dart off towards your board edge at twice your move. Typically, for most units in the game that aren't infantry, you jump off the board, and that's it. Game over. You don't get a chance to rally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Most vehicles are double moving at 16 inches or more. So you'd have to be well up the board to not just run straight off the board.
Yep.
So we've just changed that very simply to you now just move your normal move to your board edge, so you have a chance to rally.
I mean, that makes sense.
That's it, really. Nice simple change, because it just is very annoying when the morale system in the game works really well until you realise that, I failed morale. And then I just run off the board anyway.
And there's actually been quite a few times where we've been playing a game and whatever unit has retreated have had the ability to rally, and then they've become quite instrumental in the rest of the game. So it's almost like you're saving your own butt, basically. And it helps to just keep the game a little bit more interesting. It's a little bit less mean, and also I think it just in general makes a lot of sense for it to work in that way.
I mean, it's all on. It's never going to feel good when you fail a morale check and you haven't really lost that much of the unit, or you lost enough to trigger the morale check, but then they just run off the board and you're like, they could have still fought, they could have carried on, but they just disappeared off the board because they were too close to the edge. Yeah, the system is designed for the ability to rally, but the way the game is currently run, it doesn't happen very often. Yeah, so we just modified that so that it's a little bit more plausible. And in addition to that as well, melee combat as well. You don't actually fall back. You don't get the fallback order if you fail morale. You just are forced to fall back out of combat, and that's it. There's no other penalty for losing combat. So we've modified that so that if you fail that morale check, you do actually fail the combat, and you stay in combat with the fallback token, and then you proceed as normal fallback mechanics. I think there is going to be a situation at some point where I did read where that might conflict a little bit, and I'd have to modify something else to make it work. But I can't remember what rule exactly that is that I would need to jig a little bit. Because otherwise the combats just didn't really feel very impactful when you're going in, you're fighting, you do a load of damage, the enemy falls back, and then just act normally. It just doesn't feel right. I feel like they should run away. So now they do. Makes sense. Cool.
I'm trying to think of anything else. Was there something that we did where deep striking is concerned, or is that just
no? We haven't modified deep striking anyway. That seems to work quite well.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that was just an afterthought. I
do enjoy the random element of deep striking.
Yes, it is nice to have back in
when
the system.
When you remember to do it.
When you remember to do it, that does help.
It's been twice now. Twice where I've forgotten to deep strike my Terminators. Oh.
They just sat there. They're just waiting on the ship. They're like, any day now. We'll get the call. Don't you worry. Well, they weren't forgotten about us. So, in reality, as far as the main rules go, there aren't too many that we've wanted to change. Really, it's primarily that little bit in the morale stage. And obviously I'm now speaking about the charge thing, which I haven't tested yet. That's something that's only occurred to me recently. There are a couple of sort of smaller things, like the ion shields for knights. You will see this a lot on any Legions chat or forum, that the ion shields are essentially irrelevant. For example, the way they essentially work is that they reduce... They have like an inbound save,
but they get reduced by AP, but only slightly.
No.
But it's weird because if you've got, say, I think it's an Armored Knight has a 5-up invuln, a 5-up Ion Shield save, and a 3-up armor save. Now, an Ion Shield is reduced by 1 if it's at AP 1 to 3, and then by 2 if it's 3 or more, if I remember correct. So essentially, that means that if you go to AP 2 on your armor save, which takes you to a 5-up save, your Iron Shield's already gone to a 6-up, so you're still on your armor save. You go to a 3-up, you'd be on your armor save of 6-up, and your Iron would also be a 6-up, or it would actually be a 7-up at that point. Essentially, it has no effect.
And it's overly complicated for what it is.
Yeah, that sounds horrendously complex for 0 payoff.
Yeah, literally 0 payoff. So the other caveat to the Iron Shield as well is that you can't take the Iron Shield on your front arc. On your rear arc. You can only take it on the front arc, which is good. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
So my idea that we've tried to change it, because one thing we've also found with Knights is they're extremely expensive for not a lot of durability. They've got quite good firepower, but if you shoot them, they do fall over quite easily, and they're very expensive. Like a single Questora chassis Knight is 180 points.
Yeah,
It's 100.
That's pretty steady.
It's 180 points without any upgrades. It's got decent guns and decent melee, but they're not game-breakingly good. And they've only got a 4-up Ion Shield save and a 3-up save, which means anything that's AP 3 or more, they're saving on a 5 or a 6 anyway. If they're lucky. 3 wounds, which is okay. But for the same price at 180 points, I think you could take like 6 Predators, which has more guns and more wounds.
Yeah.
And is just as likely to save against high-powered weapons. So my concept is, well, they're quite expensive what they are, so why not just make Iron Shields an invuln save that gets switched off in the rear arc? Simple as that. They just don't get modified. They're just a single directional save.
Yeah.
Simple as that. So we've tried that for a few games, and that seems to work. Knights are still dying, but they're not dying to a stiff breeze.
Yeah.
You got to work around the shield.
Yeah.
Which is how it should be.
Yeah. So that's the change that we implemented for Knights, and it makes the Knights that are quite expensive feel durable, but not impossible to kill. In fact, they're still relatively easy to kill. The only one we haven't tried that on is the Lancer Knights yet. Because I'm
with a big Iron Shield.
With the big Iron Shield, a 3+, which sounds like it could be quite problematic, a 3-up invuln save. Until you remember that in theory you're charging these Knights, so it's not going to be hard to get into their rear arc.
I mean, it's a Knight with a giant shield. It should be hard. Like, they're not shooting you. They're trying to get close enough to melee.
And I also think, if I remember right, they're like 230 odd points.
Yeah, I don't think so.
215 points.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're not cheap either. Like, yeah,
No.
Yeah.
You're not taking many of them in most armies. So I don't think necessarily a 3-up save for something that's literally charging at you and it's going to be in your face. And then in the subsequent turn, if you're playing the game, you just sneak around them and shoot them in the back anyway.
Yeah.
It's going to be a big issue. So yeah, so that's the one thing I haven't tried yet. We've tried it with the Questoris patterns and we've tried it with the Astartes, and they seem to work fine.
Yeah. That seems, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and then there's a couple of a couple of Titan changes, like changing the plasma weapons to blast templates.
Because there needs to be more blast templates. That's the correct
blast
answer.
Templates, and because the plasma weapons are always the weakest on all the Titans,
which is wild.
Yeah. I want to go through the Warhound weapons and modify them, because some of the Warhound weapons are horrifically bad. Like of the like 9 weapons it can take, only 3 of them are good. Like the really cool ones, the ones that I want to run, like the Shock Lance and the Ursus Claw, are awful.
That makes me sad because those are the ones I want to run.
Yeah, they're terrible in the game because the Ursus Claw, you have to be. It's only a 6-inch range, which is already hard enough to get to with a Titan anyway because they don't move fast. But then only hits on a 4-up. So you've got to try and get this Titan within 6 inches, then get a 50-50 chance of hitting. And then on top of that, it's a dice roll off to see if you do any damage with an Ursus Claw.
How is it that bad?
It's terrible. It's awful. Like, if the stars align, it can do a lot of damage. But it is a case of the stars have to align for this thing to be any good.
Like, I feel like anything that is a 6-inch range should not need to hit on a 4.
It's a 330-point model. You don't pay any less for having the rubbish weapons.
Yeah, so you're just always going to take the most expensive stuff.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, the only weapons that are pretty much good on the Warhound is the Mega Bolter, the Turbo Laser. The missile systems are pretty good. There is an argument the Melter weapon is okay.
Really?
The way I've changed the plasma guns now made them actually quite good because they now I've changed the plasma guns to give them the blast 3-inch, and they've gone from a 3 up to a 4 up to hit. So I've actually weakened their hit roll, but added the blast template.
Does that make quite a difference? Does it?
Yes, because it basically means you can hit more targets with multiple dice. So instead of hitting on the 3s, hit on the 4s to balance out.
Yeah,
but then also makes it competitive with the laser destroyer or turbo laser, because currently, as the rules are written, the turbo laser and the plasma gun are essentially the same gun. The only difference is the turbo laser's got twice the range. Technically, it hits on 4s versus the 3, but the turbo laser has accurate, so it rerolls the 4 up anyway. So it's just better. Statistically, it's just better and longer range.
How did that happen?
The Warhound's weapons, they're terrible. They're so bad.
Who looked at that and was like, yes, this makes sense.
Yeah.
This is a brilliant idea. Yes, let's do this.
So yeah, I'm looking particularly at plasma weapons on all the Titans because most of them are not as good as they probably should be, and I feel like the plasma weapons are a good opportunity to chuck templates onto the board.
Yeah,
so why not? But there's a lot of the Warhound weapons that I feel need adjusting.
Yeah.
So I shall be playing around with those at some point.
I mean, you have the Warhound and you have experience with it. So
yes, and every option painted up.
I will look forward to seeing what it comes out with. Even the Ursus Claw.
I have 2 Ursus Claws painted up.
Even if they're terrible.
Even if they're terrible. I figured at some point I will play with the rules, so I want to make them good because it looks cool.
Can you dual claw?
Technically, yes, but that
like
would be
Wolverine?
awful.
Like Wolverine?
I mean, they're not quite those kind of claws, but technically speaking, yes, you could equip 2 Ursus Claws, but there would be no point in doing so because having 2 makes it well, technically, I suppose you could hit 2 targets with it, but that's about it.
Yeah. This is why I do have my reservations about running Titans.
The Ursus Claw, yes. I think, is a weapon I think that would be quite a good candidate for having a wrecker trait or a demolisher trait, because I could just imagine this massive claw being shot into the base of a building, yanking masonry out and pulling it down.
Yeah. I hadn't seen the Shock Lance. I just had to look it up just as a reference.
Good.
It is the saddest looking weapon on a Warhound I have ever seen.
I like it.
It looks so sad. Like, if I saw this Warhound striding into battle with its Shock Lance, I'd be like, oh bless him, he tried. He really tried. But they just really weren't, they weren't giving him They're being nice to him out there when they outfitted him. Like,
Yeah.
it just looks so just nothing.
It's funny, actually. The shock lance is not featured on any of the builds
I wonder why.
on DW's website.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Just gonna show you that. Right here, we've got Ursus Claw, Melter Lance, Missile, Volkite. Ursus Claw, Melter, Volkite, Missile, Volkite, Missile. Oh look, that's a Ursus there and a Melter, Volkite, Ursus, Missile. It's not on any of the promos.
Nope.
I need to dig out my version of it because I've actually painted mine up with like a blue tinge to the shaft of the blade, so it looks like it's slightly energized.
I mean,
I like mine. I think it's cool.
I'm just saying, but still, the image of the shock lance is a depressing picture.
Let me just see if I can find the rules for it, because the shock lance is also not very good. So 6-inch range, same as the Ursus Claw. 1 dice, same as the Ursus Claw. This one does hit on 2s.
Ooh.
Okay.
What a treat.
It's AP -1.
Huh.
Not amazing, considering this claw, this lance thing is actually designed to fire into Titans, which have 2-up saves on average. Bypass, which does mean that it ignores saves. So it will just go straight through and go against your armor save. So ignore void shields and stuff, which is nice. And then shock pulse, if I remember right, that basically means that the Titan that you hit can only fire 1 weapon.
And its movement is halved.
Okay. So that one isn't terrible if you're using it to fight Titans.
Yeah.
It has no use against anything else, because it's basically a pointless weapon. All other weapons are superior to it. Now, that in and of itself is not a problem, because it's a tool to take down a Titan, I suppose. Would I take that, though, over anything else? Probably not.
I was like, you could disable it. You could like halve its distance, or you could fire it with something that's actually going to do some damage.
Yeah, so I feel like even though the shock lance is better than the Ursus Claw, it still needs something a little bit extra to make it useful.
I was going to say, I can get within 6 inches and fire off the Melter Lance.
The Melter Lance is significantly better in every way.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm worried about getting within 6 inches, I'm gonna take a thing that is designed to kill.
So for anyone watching at home that doesn't have the stats up, the Melter Lance at 6-inch range, 1 dice again, hits on 3s. Slightly worse until you realise it's got accurate, which means it's re-rolling that 3. Essentially the same as a 2-up. It's got a -4 AP. That's 4 times as good.
See, that just seems ridiculous.
It's also got the Demolisher trait, which means it can smash through buildings and kill infantry inside them, which is great. It's also got Engine Killer 2, which means it does 3 damage to a Titan. Or any other multi-wound vehicle.
So yeah, like...
It's substantially stronger. Substantially stronger. The shock lance would probably either need to just give it a better range, just to make it feel more viable, or it needs to have another trait, like something like Engine Killer.
Yeah.
Even if it's not doing, say, as much damage, like even just Engine Killer 1's just doing 2 damage, at least it's taking out half a Warhound's wounds.
It's doing something.
And then disabling its weapon systems and stuff like that. I mean, to be honest, now I'm thinking about it, I'm already thinking, sod it, make it a 10-inch range and give it Engine Killer 1. Because then it's got a little bit more play than the Melter Lance.
Yeah.
Well, not more play, but different play.
Some play. It's actually got some
Yeah.
play.
I mean, it could be an argument to maybe go to 12-inch range, just double it. But either way, it needs more range and a little bit more punch. Yeah. Possibly a higher AP as well. Maybe. But yeah. So that's basically a lot of the Warhammer weapons need modifying. I have found with the other Titans, most of their weapons seem good. It's just the plasma ones that I feel just need that little bit of sprucing up with the blast and blade.
And you need to roll well. I'm sorry, I can't help myself.
I mean, that's a me problem, not a Roy's problem.
Jamie took emotional damage that day.
Emotional damage.
So yeah, and there is one change we have made to Astartes as well.
Oh,
a very important change. Missile launchers for infantry.
Yes, they are too powerful, even though I love them and didn't want to.
I think they're perfectly balanced. I don't know what you're talking about.
Them.
No. Yes, we're gonna modify the missile launchers to actually hit on 5s rather than 4s.
Ruin that perfectly balanced weapon.
Yeah, that weapon is far too strong for an infantry base, and also makes the plasma gun irrelevant. Whereas having those missiles hitting on 5s suddenly actually makes them a competitive choice compared to the plasma gun, while also making the missile launchers less oppressive.
Well, I regret making as many missile launchers as I have.
Yes, well, some of us using plastic hits, John, and can't just print off whatever we want.
I don't have a defense. I was going to look for one. I couldn't see one.
Yeah, so that's the only thing in the Astartes we've modified, I think.
I held my reservations about it as well, but
we might modify the Carrier's assault cannon on the Contemptor, as we briefly touched on earlier. But again, I need to play with that a little bit more before I make my verdict on that one.
Try and make it do something. So taking away from the missile launchers, then how do the plasma guns then play if you take away the missile launchers?
Well, the plasma guns actually, because they're more they hit more reliably.
Okay,
because they hit on 4s, I think, standard. Yeah. Same as the missiles used to. So now the missile launchers aren't hitting as consistently, have longer range. The plasma guns now become much more effective as infantry killers outside of shooting into buildings, because the missile launchers still work out better because it ignores cover.
Cool.
So the missile launchers probably still are slightly better in some circumstances, but then the plasma guns become better in others. Because they're just more, that the extra accuracy and the extra AP against infantry is quite key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I still think missiles are great. They will, and we've tried them with the 5-up to hit, and they still do a load of damage.
They still work. They still
work. They still do lots of damage. They don't really lose a whole lot.
I still love them. They're one of my favorite.
In all fairness, it kind of makes sense that they would be slightly worse to hit.
They should be, especially when they're firing at such a long distance for an infantry model as well.
Yeah,
I'm just hoping. I know it's coming, but I'm just hoping for the other special weapons for the Marines.
Yeah, I'm sure they are coming. One thing I'm looking forward to for Marines is Desolator Marines.
The Volkite pistols and jump packs.
No, I mean the foot-slogging, chainsaw and bolter ones.
Oh. What am I thinking of?
I'm not sure.
It's like they're... Oh.
I think the ones I'm thinking are called Desolator Marines.
It could very well be.
But
I think it's... Well, the one I'm thinking of, they're like jump pack Marines that come in with because the whole thing is like, oh, they use the old weapons that nobody's allowed to use anymore. So they're like,
yeah, I know they're the ones that are frowned upon use, aren't they?
Yeah, they're like pariahs of the Legion, but they're like a necessary evil and that kind of stuff.
I cannot remember what they're called. I know exactly what you're talking about. Probably gaffed.
They're not just because there's the destroyers, which are great because they're the ones with like 2 pistols and they just run in with dual pistols. Hilarious. Not the ones I was thinking of.
I'm not finding it at the moment. There's so many kits on GW's website.
Just so many. Like, I think we're both currently doing the same thing of like scroll. The funny thing is, I don't think they're actually even on GW's website anymore, but they're still in the rules.
They're probably not. No, yeah, they're probably not actually because they've moved them all to upgrade packs, haven't they? So they won't probably be units anymore. You just upgrade the Mark 6 kit now, I think.
I can't remember. Yes, those ones. Like just the rest of them when they come out will be cool.
Yeah. There's a lot of cool things that we'd like to see in that regard.
Yeah. I'm hoping that when they come out with those heavy bolters, that heavy bolters are good.
Well, I might be talking about spoiler squads.
You might be.
I've just found something called spoiler squads, and they've got chain blades and pistols.
Well, then that would sound like that's what a spoiler is.
Yeah, I think what I'm talking about is those.
Then what am I talking?
Basically, we want chains and blades, and we want bulkite everywhere.
Yeah. Mine was the Mortalis destroyer squad.
Yes. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, so we would like to see more of those, but those things are probably going to come out at some point.
Yeah.
So we won't.
If it's in Horus Heresy in plastic, at least I think it'll probably come out.
No, if it's in plastic, it's definitely coming out. They've already said that in a previous live stream. GW did state that anything in plastic will be coming to Legions.
Cool. Some things that were resin that come to Legions before they came in plastic. So
there are some things that come out in plastic that have never been made before, like the Dark Mech Walkers,
and they still aren't there.
And they're still there. But I mean, I think we got. Did we get them first, or are they being done at the same time? The AdMech tanks.
It was AdMech. AdMech tanks did come out before, but the robots came out in Legions in plastic first.
I thought we got the tanks first as well.
Oh, I would have to go back through like the community announcements. That would be more effort than it is worth.
But regardless, say the AdMech stuff has been very neck and neck.
Yes, very neck and neck.
Oh, I was gonna say it. That's not fair. God damn it, man!
Oh dear.
I was gonna wait until he didn't say anything. There was gonna be a long pause of silence, and I was gonna make it. Whatever.
I'm sorry to steal your thunder.
He stole my thunder, and now you have stolen my thunder. I'm very mad at you.
Yeah, everybody's stealing your thunder.
Clearly.
And I got the lightning, baby.
Oh, she's really adopting the Night Lord aesthetic now, isn't she?
Very much so.
I was already a weirdo, so like anything else after this point, it's natural, you know?
Yep.
Anyway.
Yes. Well, I mean, that pretty much does cover a lot of the rules that we have implemented and a few that we're thinking about implementing.
Yep.
I think there is one big one that I'm very keen to implement, but we haven't got any models for it yet. And someone else has potentially done the rules for me, but I may change them, which is the psychic rules. Which,
just for a change,
as you know, I'm very keen to get in. I can't quite remember. I think Joe did say that the rules he's found do this, but I'm very much want to go back to the old fantasy magic system where you have a dice pool.
Yep.
And you can cast spells or cast, psychic powers based on them. dice pool you have access to.
Yeah.
So I'm very keen to have a go at that.
Very keen to have the dice tokens, the dice via magic.
Mm.
Yeah.
So that's probably the biggest change that I would look at adding if I don't just use whatever this other person's creation has been.
Yeah.
Or some hybrid of the two.
Some crossover point. Cool.
Yes. So, is there anything else in terms of new rules or anything?
I think that covers it quite nicely.
Right. Well, I'm looking at the time, and I'm looking at the amount of time we've spent on record now, and I have a funny feeling we may be going to a part 3.
I think we might end up going to a part 3 on this one.
I think there's maybe a 3-part series.
It was a good thing that we didn't say it was part 1 of 2, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
I very cleverly future-proof that statement.
Yep. And this one is not part 2 of 3. We're just going to go to part 3.
We are going to part 3 next week. So sadly, John, you will miss part 3.
It's okay. I filled in for Joe on part 2. So
indeed. So at least you both would have participated in 33% of the series, potentially.
Wait, no, we both. Well, I know it depends on how long the series goes on for.
I said potentially.
Because at this moment in
currently,
time,
it will be that value.
currently it's 100%. No, because I would have participated in the first percent, so it would have been 66% each. If it's 3.
Oh,
Doesn't
yes,
really
yeah. it would
matter.
be.
Yeah.
Yes, we're Warhammer nerds. Numbers.
Percentages, they're important.
Right, Sheldon. Both of you.
Do not denigrate us to that level.
No. How dare you, Penny?
We will have a conversation about that.
I'm
Off
gonna leave you
camera.
right, wrap it up quick. I don't want you to fighting on camera.
Okay. So with that being said, let's round this up with a round table. Welcome back. So we are going to wrap up with our round table and quickly have a look at the discussion that we've had previously. And I will confirm that once again, I have been messed about with, shall we say, in the interlude, which has thrown me off my game completely once again. This whole episode has just been me struggling to keep a straight face because people keep saying silly things off camera.
What a dad.
You started it, John. You may not have continued it, but you started it.
I don't think that's fair, but carry on.
Oh dear. So anyway,
Yes.
so in today's episode, we had a brief gander into Tankard Talk where we had a very minimalist session because time, illness, and general life has meant that we've not done a whole lot in terms of hobbying, but we have made some progress. The Night Lord's backlog is done and finished until I make more. And the Night Lord's story has progressed, potentially.
It has. I'm so excited.
Lots of Night Lord's progress recently.
Yep.
And I can confirm that the next couple of streams will actually feature a return to my solo Auxilia for a little bit. Just to break things up for me, so I'm not constantly painting someone else's army. I can hit some of my own backlog for a little bit, which I think is only
keep an
fair.
eye out for those streams as well.
Yes, so please do remember to check out the streams on Twitch, but we'll come back to that. And then the main discussion, we were talking through additional units we'd like to see added into the game. We've talked a few Astartes units, like a sword and board infantry unit, and other things that memory fails. So go back and watch it.
Night Lords,
Yes, the Night Lord special units and some Alpha Legion special units and Primarchs all over the place. We had a quick gander at Imperium at large, such as Assassins.
Yep. And cultists.
And cultists as well. The cultist is the sort of generalist. Could be lawyers, could be traitor, could be gene stealer. So there is some interesting rules and options for you to look at there. Knights, obviously I had to mention psychics, as per usual.
Just for a change.
We had the amazing idea of a knight's dropship, which has infested my mind now. I need to see if I can make that a reality.
Oh, for God's sake.
I am excited to see that.
Yeah.
The man who always complains he has too many projects to work on,
it's not my fault that my team is full of amazingly talented people that give me ideas.
I have nothing to say to that.
Didn't think so. So Auxilia.
Nothing appropriate, anyway.
So Auxilia, we got a couple of little unit ideas like cavalry.
Yep.
And some psychers again. Titans is the one that we struggle with a little bit. But we kind of got onto the idea of potentially knight patterns and variants in that regard. And then post that discussion, we obviously had a little chat about rules changes that myself and Els have been working on as we've been playing the game. So changes to the way morale works, combat, charging, a couple of unit changes, and our horrible disdain at the tragedy of the Warhound weapon list that needs to be seen to at some point. And I will see to that at some point very soon because I need an excuse to run some Warhounds in the game.
Insane?
Yeah. So, and I've got 4 of them currently. I actually have 6, but I have 4 painted up. So I feel like they need to come out of the box.
Probably need to do something at some point,
Yeah. I feel like they need to take the field.
Yep.
So yeah, that's pretty much a roundup of everything we've done today.
Cool.
I think we've had a few laughs, both on and off camera.
Definitely not at your expense.
Absolutely not. Of course not. Never.
So thank you very much, team, for a wonderful recording session.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
It has been fun. It has been difficult in places, but it has been fun. So I think all that's left to do really is to say thank you very much to anyone who's watching. Please do comment and let us know what you think about what we've said. Are there any changes that we have talked about that interest you? Have you got any changes you'd like to see? I know there's been a community-led FAQ update to Legions rules, which I have read. Lip Bashing is another channel on YouTube that's already done a breakdown of it that was quite good. So go check that one out if you'd like to have a look. We will probably implement some of those changes, if not all of them. Might be another discussion for another day.
Mm-hmm.
Give them a read.
Yeah. But other than that, please do go and follow us on all the various social media accounts, which I'm sure Els would love to list off.
Absolutely, of course. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Follow the Twitch so you are up to date on the streams. Did I say Instagram?
Yeah, you've done all the main ones. You just forgot YouTube.
And obviously subscribe to the YouTube channel and like the video and copy link the video because it helps us reach the algorithm because, we don't want to use the algorithm, but the algorithm needs us. So put us out there.
I mean, we do need to fight the algorithm, as it were. But obviously, one way you can help us do that is by actually sharing our channel with your friends and your hobby groups. Actually promote it by word of mouth. I still feel like word of mouth is one of the most powerful ways of acquiring a following. And for us to be able to continue to do this and expand, we need more viewers and more interaction. And with that in mind as well, if you'd like to be featured in some way as part of this community that we are trying to build, send in your progress images and we will post them and we will turn Tankard Talk into a community Tankard Talk. Where we won't just sit there and gaze lovingly at our own models, but we'll gaze lovingly at yours. Because that's, at the end of the day, what we'd love to do, really. We look at our own models plenty enough. We want to see yours.
Absolutely.
So, I think that's all for now. So, thank you very much. One last time. Please do all the bits and pieces. But until then, I have been Jay, your host here at Mead Wargaming, and I've been joined by...
John?
Al.
Thank you very much. We will see you again soon in the Mead Hall. Bye-bye for now.
Good.
Bye. Love ya.